Let's just dive into the bath with the intro. Welcome to the podcast of INDUSRUPTIV and Friends, the podcast where we play with industry and tech peers between candy, espresso, and soda. And the necessary small talk, merciless trashing or cashing mantras, biases, and trends for the next coming years. Live from Abyss in Kortrijk Expo. Our guest today is Tatiana Galibus from Sirris. She's also speaker on this Abyss Summit. Tatiana, who are you and what are you doing?
So I am a Cybersecurity Ambassador at Sirris, which actually encompasses a lot of roles. I am leading, teaching, coaching cybersecurity in different industrial contexts. And Sirris being an innovation center, it is often an innovative or edgy context where we help companies to manage and to balance between innovation and security. My background is security and cryptography. I hold PhD in cryptography and secret sharing in notariings, so academic industry. It was a very, I would say, a bit brutal change.
It must be tempting to come out of academical and research and to land into industry.
Yes, I would say very exciting. I'm very excited about my job and how my background and the insights I can give to companies can really help them to change for the better. So I'm very inspired about Sirris and the role we play and how we engage with Belgian industry.
Interesting. Now, let's fire up a little bit, Tatiana. Okay, I would say let's trash or cash some ideas, some biases, enough small talk. Maybe let's start with some issues. A lot of companies who are visiting Abyss here are small and medium enterprises in manufacturing. I saw that there was a lot of animo and people on your session this morning. Is it for small and medium enterprises starting from a legacy shop floor very challenging to start with an NIS2 OT cybersecurity strategy?
Well, I would say
It's a complex question, Tatiana?
yes, there are different angles which we can take. We can say it is very challenging because the legislation is very demanding. So true to comply for SMEs is next to impossible in the terms that it has been given. So the legislation NIS2 and the CRA that we have now is, frankly speaking, is not taking into account what's possible for industry. And I say it because Sirris works a lot with those small companies, and I kind of consider myself a representative of them. But on the other side, if we really say starting is not difficult. So taking beginning steps, simple steps, the steps that can really help you to see the whole picture is not difficult, but it's a change of a mindset.
What are simple steps? Can you translate it into some practical stuff?
Yes. So I am a big I like a lot threat modeling and risk assessment. So I believe risk-based approach is the basement. And it helps you to really understand what are your crown jewels, what is important in your environment. Because if you don't know what is important, you will not see where to invest or what you need to protect. But when you know exactly what is necessary for your business to function, then you can really focus on the important things and make your priorities. So this is, I would say, really first step, adopt the risk-based approach and security-first mindset.
I can imagine that, Tatiana, that risk assessment on its own is very complex because maybe it already starts in your supply chain. Because when people log in your machines or other furniture log into your system because they have to download or upload or get into your ecosystem, It's not only in the company, it's also externally that there can be intrusions. So if you're a small, medium enterprise, maybe you have somebody who is responsible for IT, I suppose, in those companies. But how do they start with an assessment risk plan? Or
Yeah,
is there
yeah.
documentation available, or
There are a lot of known frameworks, but again, when I go to companies, I understand when I speak about the standards, ISO standards, IC standard zones and conduits, security levels, they really don't speak that language. So taking it down to earth, what we tell companies to do, and what I think is important, that companies start asking questions themselves: what is important for us? What are we afraid of? And the second step is understand what are the threats, or what are the scenarios that I, like you mentioned, remote access. Yes, maybe I have a remotely connected machine. So what if tomorrow I come and someone entered my environment because of this machine? What can really happen? What should I protect myself in the first hand? And then I start putting the controls. So I believe that instead of operating numbers, standards, and terms, to bring it down to earth and just to understand this is important, this is what can happen, and this is what I should do, really helps to adopt, as I said, security mindset and start to manage the change. So it's also about the change management. How do we include these considerations before we buy a new machine on the shop floor? How do we include that security measure?
starting from
remote?
the purchasement, the acquisition of the
Yes,
machine
starting
before?
from,
You have to do already a study.
yeah.
Is this machine on a software basis compliant with
We have at least to
our
learn to ask questions. We will not say, oh, let's do everything and let's protect it. Again, we always like to go a little bit lower and simpler. Ask questions to your providers. That's what we say to companies. Ask them how this machine is connected. What is the protocol that is used? Is it what kind of software this machine use? How do they connect to the outside? Normally, typically, there can be a couple of situations. One is they can enter through the front door, meaning using VPN, and that means okay, your ICT controls the situation, and they can enter through the back door, meaning put a box and use a cellular connection, which normally you don't want to have because it's a black box. You don't know what's happening, how they enter your network. And believe me, because as I said, as a Sirris, we have a privilege to work both with companies that set up those boxes, because it's very easy for them when they sell a machine, and the companies who have to accept those boxes. And believe me, on their side, you will not have a perfect security either. So it's always better to negotiate from the start to have control over your environment.
Okay, all right. Now, talking of mantras, everybody's proclaiming here that IT and OT is converging, and I can imagine that is right, that those two silos are converging one another, because all the data has to be merged and used and reused and recycled for different purposes. But when we're talking about cybersecurity, you have companies like Galibus, who came to talk 2 years ago, who globally enrolled or implemented an OT cybersecurity strategy. Maybe you're aware of it. And I remember in the interview that the guy said, I don't remember his name, but he was responsible for the 40 factories all over the globe. And he said, listen, the mindset to start with OT cybersecurity strategy must be the mindset of a plant manager. Is this correct? Do you think this is correct in the sense that when in a small, medium enterprise, somebody from IT is deciding what is the OT cybersecurity strategy on the shop floor?
Yeah, that's also, again, a question. I have various responses. Like, the interesting thing about OT and the truth is there is never like a single cascade. It's always one person for 100 jobs. So I talk a lot also to plant managers, to process engineers, to ICT, to external providers who are also in the loop. There is a job that is called also infrastructure architect that actually also includes security somehow, and it's like in between ICT and OT and IT. So there are a lot of unknowns.
Too many people and too many opinions.
Too many people, but they need to start talking. The truth is, right now we see there is a delegation, and some companies do organize well for delegating jobs to each other, but collaboration is and talking together, IT and OT, is so important. We don't see it yet, to be completely transparent. So there is always this unpronounced trust. So, for example, I know my colleague worked here. There is a VLAN. Everything is disconnected, but in fact, it's not really disconnected, for example. So I would say that IT and OT need to start more.
They are
talk
obliged.
more.
They are obliged. It's like in a marriage. They're obliged to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But maybe they need a third party, an external party, to oblige them to talk the same language.
Yeah, that's also something we do basically, because when we give advice, and in fact it's quite interesting that often it's a sort of a human-centric or psychological problem when people do not speak the same language, or are not open enough, or are not I would say capable to change the mindset. So
they have their own biases.
Yeah.
But in that way, I think we quite agree that there is a need for a third party who has no interest in that part of the company or that part of the company, who oblige all parties to sit to go sit around the table, and maybe to play also as a kind of translator, because each party does not understand the goals of the other party. Is this what you are doing with Sirris, or how can I?
Yeah, this is one thing that we do also with the advice. So we give advice with Vlaio. So we work with under Vlaio IP, and we give, say, 3 days, and 3 days we sit on a table and we understand how company functions, and we try to make a plan together with them what they should do next. But I would say right now with the CRA, it's even more complex, because for product security, there has to be ICT, there has to be external party, there has to be legal, there has to be engineer, there has to be support. So it's like really becoming transversal. So in a way, it's a very good legislation in NIS2 and CRA, because it makes everyone participate in cybersecurity. It obliges everyone to take part. So you cannot say anymore, it's my external partner and I'm not involved, because you take responsibility for the risks. So, but it's in practice, it's difficult.
It's difficult, it's complicated, but it takes many resources, not only in working hours, but also in expertise and in technology. Do you have any idea of budgets that a small company, a small production company, has to have in his head to budget it to be completely compliant?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
The budget in cybersecurity, you cannot measure it as return of investment, but rather estimating how much you would lose if you reduce the possibility of certain attack. And we know that ransomware and phishing mails are still the most important attacks. So, for example, having a more or less stable system that all colleagues, new and old ones equally, have awareness session about phishing mails and ransomware, and that doesn't cost a lot. So there are a lot of free trainings over there. And also having kind of redundancy. If you know that you can continue working for some time, even if something happens. Worst, everything is encrypted, you still can continue working. And also paying a good salary to your ICT, say, is important.
If you what do they say? If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. I completely agree. But can people? Is it easy for people to get a Vlaio a subsidy for, or is that finished?
Vlaio has a lot of modalities how the companies KMO can get subsidized for development. We are innovation center. We help them completely for free with advice. So we work with them for 3 days for road mapping. There are also cybersecurity companies that do verbete trajecten. It's longer trajectory, implementation, deeper implementation. Maybe it's for companies who want to focus more on security. But there are also a lot of collective projects where, for example, we are now starting a project on CRA compliance for product security, and it's completely for free for companies where they also have 2 years of guidance and sharing tools and mapping the field and understanding what they should do, and it's supported by Vlaio. It's even encouraged by Vlaio because Vlaio understands its security.
If you say, I can imagine if you say for free, but maybe I misunderstood. Is Sirris providing some free services to companies, or how?
Yeah, we're getting governmental subsidies from FPS Economie, from Vlaio. Also, there are some projects in Wallonie where we can help companies, small companies, for free because they don't have access to resources.
Okay. Yeah.
So they cannot pay money to hire a full-time security expert, but because sorry, their problems are more or less standardized, and they often do not demand very complex technologically savvy solutions. So we can help them by translating or transmitting what we know on a more generic basis and help them to improve security without investing a lot of money. That's what we do actually.
Okay, all right. Now, some final thoughts for the people who were present. They had your presentations. What I really would like to know, and maybe some people also were looking at or listening to the podcast, which are the main risk or intrusions that SMEs are confronted with? Yeah, which are the main Achilles, the weaknesses where the intrusions happen?
So okay, we are at a manufacturing fair, so of course OT is very fragile when it's exposed, and indeed there is remote access, there is very little visibility, but all OT threats come through IT. So that means if you do not know what is happening in your system, in your network, you will be able to respond very not fast enough. So that is the truth. And I would say globally still the most important attack vector is phishing mail. So people click on phishing mails. It's very simple. It's very simple but still efficient. And the second one is supply chain attack. This is less known for people, less understandable why it can happen, and that's why the blind trust is still very strong.
Can you give me some examples of a supply chain attack?
Yeah, for example, we all heard about the Brussels airport, right? So it's a typical software supply chain attack. It was an attack on a software used for tickets.
It was really into the ticketing, because that is not Brussels Airlines. It's a supplier of Brussels Airlines.
Also, not Brussels Airlines.
For
all
ticketing.
Different airports in Europe. It's an American company, not so small company, but apparently there was a weakness in the system, in the software. A week before, in the first weeks of September, CrowdStrike, which is also a security company, global security company, was also impacted by another software supply chain attack on NPM packages. So this is more technical. Basically, the malware was inserted directly into the code of some dependencies of the software that was developed by
during an upload. This was during
yes.
How do you do?
Upload, yes,
Yeah,
you upload.
upload of a new,
Yeah,
new
and
part of.
this malware, we call it a worm. So worm is a malware that can reproduce itself. Basically, it was reproducing itself and looking for all the sensitive codes and credentials in the system and taking them away. So, and it can happen every day with any company, with any kind of software. We are depending on software right now, and this we don't see yet, because it's what happens is that the truth is also this kind of attacks are quite sophisticated. They often enter into a system and then take everything that is valuable and then remove without traces. So it's very difficult for small companies to really understand they were breached. I'm sure there are so many small companies already breached, but they just do not know, as it happened in 2020 with the SolarWinds attack, when 18,000 companies were breached, and that was just the top of the iceberg.
Do you have an idea how many Belgian companies are not compliant yet?
With the NS2,
Yes.
90%. I've not, to be completely again transparent, SME company compliant with NIS2, we do not work with such companies.
Are there any deadlines that we have to that
Well,
our listeners?
We had all to register in spring, in March, and start to comply with reporting obligations. And there is some timeline to implementing security requirements. But the most important is reporting, to report the incidents and to register. So companies do take time to comply with obligations. And we see that, again, the truth is that the companies say, if the customer doesn't ask, we're not going to do it. So that's what they say.
Okay, catch that one. Okay, Tatiana, if some people have questions or want to know more in detail what your services provide, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we have Sirris webpage, SIRRIS.be,
Mm-hmm.
and there are our security services mentioned. My name is also there, or also get in contact through the mail. And there you can see also our projects, our labs, our demonstrators, and other colleagues of mine who are busy with different
per
aspects.
discipline. I even remember that emails and phone numbers, direct phone numbers. Are,
yes. We have
are
emails,
available on
phone
the website.
numbers. So we do a lot of projects, and even on our website, not everything is completely reflected. So we are better at, say, doing things than promoting.
Okay, and do you publish things on LinkedIn or other stuff that they
Yes,
can follow?
when I have time. So in September, there was a lot of interesting things happening. So I was doing regular posts. Last 2 weeks was so busy with events, like today. So I didn't post, but I post about attacks. I post about interesting webinars, about legislation or insights. So today I already have a lot of insights from this event, or talking to companies or seeing all the newest development. So, yeah.
Okay. So for the people listening and who want to know more about the propositions from Sirris concerning OT cybersecurity, you can find Tatiana Galibus on the website, of course, www.sirris.be, I suppose. Type in Tatiana Galibus, and you will find the phone number and mail address. And of course, you can follow Tatiana on LinkedIn. Tatiana, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciated this podcast, but also your talk, who had many people, and hoping to see you again on Abis.
Thank you for organizing.
Bye bye. This podcast is sponsored today by our friends from Industrial Fairs, organizing 6 techno-industrial events where tomorrow's technology is on display today. Visit industrialfairs.com for our next events.